Financial gurus have told you the same thing: stop buying lattes, and you'll get rich. That is the most statistically dishonest piece of financial advice. Your daily latte costs you $1,825 a year if you never skip one. The average American rent has risen more than $14,000 a year. If you earn a decent income, work hard, and still cannot save, you are not failing at life. You are navigating a system. In this video, I'm going to show you with real research and real numbers the 5 structural cost explosions that are the actual reason Americans can't save. The Federal Reserve found that nearly half of all American households, not the unemployed, not people making bad decisions, but working households, lack sufficient income. 5 categories: housing, health care, education, transportation, childcare. Every single one has more than doubled in real, inflation-adjusted cost. Stay with me through all of this, because the final chapter isn't hopeless. There are 3 structural moves that actually work. The latte factor became famous in 1999. The idea: skip your $5 coffee every day, invest the savings, and you'll retire wealthy. Here is the entire story of American personal finance in one chart. Costs went up steeply for 50 years. Wages barely moved. U.S. Census Bureau documented that median earnings for fully employed men rose less than 1% in inflation-adjusted dollars since 1970s. So when a personal finance influencer looks at a family that cannot save and says, "You just need more discipline," they are prescribing a behavioral solution. Housing and transportation alone account for nearly 40% of average household spending before a single grocery item is purchased. Financial advisors recommend spending no more than 3 times your annual income. In San Francisco, homes cost 10 to 11 times the median income. The personal finance publishing industry has made billions telling people their problems are behavioral and habits matter. I'm not dismissing that. Now let me walk you through the big 5 cost categories one by one with the actual numbers, because understanding exactly where the money is going is the foundation of fighting back. Research shows that spending increases for the middle class are in 5 categories: housing, cars, daycare, college tuition, and health insurance. Category 1. Housing. In the 1970s, a single-income family earning the median wage could purchase the median-priced home. Category 2. Healthcare. United States spends more per person on healthcare than any other country on Earth, nearly double the average of comparable wealthy nations. Category 3. Education. America carries $1.838 trillion in student loan debt, more than all credit card debt and auto loans combined. Category 4. Childcare. In 37 states, the cost of infant daycare now exceeds the cost of state college tuition. Category 5. Transportation. Because American infrastructure was designed for cars, 2 working adults almost always need 2 vehicles. Add the big 5 for a median income American household: housing, health care, education debt, childcare, 2 cars. Now here's where it gets more complicated and more important, because it's not just that each of these costs exploded. Counterintuitive finding from economic research: a 2-income middle-class family today faces greater financial fragility than a 1-income family. Picture a 1970s single-income family, 1 earner, 1 income, and here's what they had that today's 2-income family does not: a safety net. When families added a second income in response to rising costs, they didn't pocket the difference. They committed it to a bigger house in a better school district, a second car. When you subtract childcare, the second vehicle, and direct work-related costs from the second income, the net financial contribution is often shockingly small, and none of that calculation accounts for the invisible cost, the career flexibility, that evaporates when both parents are already working at capacity. The mental load. 1970s family had a safety net, the unused earning capacity of a second adult. Today's family has deployed that safety net just to meet baseline costs. Now the single biggest driver of this entire trap, the cost that anchors everything else, the expense that forces the school district decision, the commute decision. In America, public school quality is determined entirely by zip code, and every parent who wants their child in a high-quality public school must purchase access. Families in top-rated school districts pay an average 77% premium on home prices compared to the same house in a lower-rated district. When every family in a metropolitan area is competing for homes in the same cluster of good school districts, housing prices stop reflecting construction costs. Basic education in America has effectively expanded from 13 years to 19 years. Preschool because both parents now work, and childcare is required. Student who graduates with the average balance of $37,700 and makes minimum payments at 6.5% interest. Student loan doesn't just cost money monthly, it costs wealth compounding. Every delayed year of homeownership is a year of equity, a year of wealth not growing. Median homeowners hold 40 times the net worth of median renters. Student debt that delays homeownership by 5 or 10 years doesn't just cost rent money. We've covered housing and education costs. But there's one more structural layer that makes everything worse, and it operates invisibly because it affects people unpredictably. You can budget perfectly for housing. You can minimize transportation. You can cut every discretionary item. And one unexpected diagnosis, one emergency room visit. Stop. I want you to really hear 3 numbers from healthcare research before we continue. 41, 36, 30. These aren't abstract statistics. 41% cannot save healthcare costs. 36% have depleted their entire savings for medical bills. 30% have had to choose between a medical bill and food. The average annual health insurance premium for a family of 4 now exceeds $23,000. Add deductibles and out-of-pocket costs in a bad health year. OECD data shows that countries with universal healthcare systems consistently outperform the United States on household savings rates. Medical debt is the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in the United States. Not reckless spending, not gambling, not credit card debt from luxury purchases. So we have exploding fixed costs on one side. What should have been on the other side? Rising wages to maintain the equation. Here's the most devastating economic story. This chart should be every financial news in America. Worker productivity output generates has risen 247% since 1973. Economic analysis shows that if compensation had tracked productivity, the median American worker would earn roughly $107,000. The savings crisis in America is not because Americans are irresponsible with money. It is because for 50 years, the costs of essential living have risen dramatically. Eliminating every daily lat saves $1,825 per year. The structural gap between what things cost and what wages provide. The federal minimum wage has not been raised since 2009, 15 years, the longest stretch without an increase in American history. This is not a minimum wage only story. Wage stagnation has affected the full distribution of American workers, from healthcare support staff to teachers. Now, I know that was a significant amount of structural reality. I did not deliver it to make you feel trapped. I delivered it because understanding the real problem. 3 moves. These are not behavioral tips. These are structural interventions, decisions that operate at the same scale as the structural costs we've been discussing. Move 1, and this is the highest impact single decision available to most Americans. Attack your housing costs structurally, not by negotiating $50 off your rent. House hacking. Buy a small multi-unit property. Live in one unit, rent the others. Your tenants pay your mortgage. You live nearly for free while building equity. The house hacking math. A rented unit at $1,500 a month covers $18,000 of annual mortgage cost. The single most underutilized financial tool in America. If your employer offers an HSA eligible high deductible plan, maximizing your HSA contributions. An HSA invested, not just held, as cash compounds to over $168,000 after 20 years of maximum contributions. Tax-free growth. Move 3, and I'll say this plainly, if you're spending your optimization energy on expense cutting while your income is stagnant, you are fighting the wrong battle. Research shows a single $6,000 salary negotiation, compounded with annual raises and invested over a 30-year career. 3 structural moves. Attack housing with house hacking, or geographic arbitrage. $15,000 to $25,000 per year. Here is the truth I want you to carry out of this video. If you cannot save money if you're doing everything right, and still falling behind, the most likely explanation is not a character flaw. The lat factor isn't wrong as a calculation, it's wrong as a priority. Saving $1,825 by skipping coffee. Structural problems require structural thinking. The advice that has dominated personal finance for 25 years was designed for a world. I cover America's financial realities on this channel exactly the way I did today, with real data, structural honesty, no advice designed to make you feel bad. I want to ask you something specific in the comments. Which of the big 5 has hit your household the hardest? Housing, healthcare, education, transportation, or